and welcome to Mabina TV. This is home of Compassionate Conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance and sweet spot between individual creative genius excellence, as supported by capitalism, and society excellence, as supported by equality of opportunity. So, in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human first, that is, capitalism with a human first. So, now there has been, this is Africa perspective, and in Africa perspective, there has been an opposition win. There has been an opposition win in Liberia. So the opposition candidate in Liberia beat the incumbent president, that is George Weah. So basically now this is one of the very few opposition wins in Africa. So how can more opposition candidates win elections? So the opposition candidate Joseph Boakai beat the incumbent president George Weah, and the good thing is that it is the incumbent president George Weah who called Boakai and accepted the election law. So now we have a peaceful election, a reality in this part of Africa. Remember, in the western part of Africa has been encumbered by coups and counter coups. So there has been a coup. There has been a coup in Mali, a coup in Guinea, a coup in Burkina Faso, a coup in Gabon, a coup in Niger. So you can imagine just how many coups have there been in this region, this West African region. So they are celebrating that basically they now have, they are celebrating that basically they now have basically a success story in Liberia. Basically, remember, Liberia was a colony for for American slaves who were willing to be repatriated back to Africa. So there has been that tussle between Americo-Liberians, and these are the slaves that came from America, and then the local tribes. So there has been this war, because it is thought that the Americo-Liberians are the ones who will more power compared to the local tribes. So there has been that kind of rivalry, and of course that is what led to the civil war in the first place. I think the last president, the American-Liberian president, was Sirleaf Johnson. So of course this is something that maybe we need to look at. How did, because these slaves were Africans in the first place, so how did they spew a higher class than the local tribes? So basically, that's it. How does an incumbent president lose an election in Africa? When they control the court, when they control the court, they choose the electoral referee, they control the police, they control the army. So it's very hard to beat an incumbent president in Africa. But I think in Liberia it was certainly possible for an incumbent president to lose an election, and I think and that is why George Weah lost that election to the opposition candidate Joseph Boakai. So that's it in Africa perspective. Then in the Making America, I'm asking, what does Donald Trump need to do differently in order to win back the White House in 2024? That is, what does Donald Trump need to do differently in order to win back the White House in 2024? So of course, Donald Trump, I think he has a lot of rough edges, especially in how he addresses minorities. I think he said that basically when speaking about immigration reforms, he says that basically the Africans could go back to their hearts. There is no way they will leave America to go back to their hearts in Africa. But he says that America needs immigrants from places like Sweden, from places like Norway. So basically, Donald Trump, it seems, harbors white nationalist interests, and I don't think that augurs well. I think for Donald Trump, he must remake America to be a post-racial society, and I think if America becomes a post-racial society, then it very much will conform to the ideas that are there. So I think America needs to become a post-racial society, and that is the way America is going to be a country that basically welcomes all immigrants. Because remember, while immigrants, America has been welcoming of immigrants all around the world, but for most of the time, America has been a satellite European state. So it is European settlers that have held a hand in America. So I think Donald Trump needs to know he needs support of African Americans, and I think the reason Republicans are losing elections is because they have the better ideas on how to run America. That's a fact. The Republicans have the better ideas on how to run America, but they have the better ideas on how, but they have a very bad racial coalition. So basically, it's viewed as a white nationalist party. This is the direction that Donald Trump is taking the Republican Party, and I don't think it augurs well for the Republican Party to be viewed as a party of the last vestiges of white domination in America. And so the Republican Party, it was told that it has lost 7 of the last 8 presidential elections, basically because it has lost 7 of the last 8 presidential elections in terms of the popular vote. So basically, it has very great ideas, individual dynamism, where the individual is the master of their own destiny. You pull yourself by your own bootstraps. I think this is good for America. I think when the Republican Party does well, America does well. But I think in terms of racial identity politics, I think it has moved so far to the right, so much to the right that it is now viewed as a part of the last vestiges of white domination of America, and I don't think that augurs well for America. So that's it for remaking America. And then in ideas, I'm looking at basically, can a company have the resources of a multinational but still have the speed and agility of a startup? That is, can a company have the resources of a multinational but still have the speed and agility of a startup? So you had Motorola and Nokia. They were the market leaders in feature phones, but they did not transition to be the leaders in smartphones. That was taken up by the likes of Huawei, the likes of Samsung, the likes of iPhone, and I think that is basically about the feature phones. Then we had Microsoft being the market leader in personal computing software, but did not transition to be the market leader in the internet age. So that was taken up by the likes of Google, but Google itself was the market leader in search, but did not transition to be the market leader in social media. So you had Google Plus being killed, the product being shed off. So that is Google Plus. And then you had Google. You had now, I think, the market leaders in social media, such as Snapchat, such as Facebook, such as maybe Twitter now, formerly X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't think they will be the market leaders in 3D augmented reality. So they will not be the market leader in 3D augmented reality. So they will likely be the market leaders in there will be other players. So why is a company that has trillions of it doing so well in this industry? Why is it so hard to position itself for the next big industry? I think how do you have a company that comes with almost no resources at all coming and then beating an incumbent with hundreds of billions of dollars or even a trillion in market valuation? And I think maybe that's something that we need to explore. So Microsoft has never moved from its personal computing software, where Microsoft Windows operating system, and basically Office is the cash cow for Microsoft, and I think Google still relies on advertising, online advertising as its core revenue base, and I think Facebook still relies on personal connection. So why is it that a company that basically is making billions, tens and hundreds of billions of dollars, why is it that it is dislodged by an outsider? So you should let me know. So that's it for maybe for a business person. The fact that a company can be beaten by for an entrepreneur, for an economist, the fact that a big player, a multi-billion-dollar company, can be a multi-trillion-dollar company, can be taken down, is good for business, for capitalism. That shows that capitalism works because the essential element of capitalism is about reassigning wealth, reassigning efficient wealth, and destroying destructive wealth. So that's the basic premise of capitalism. And if it works well, so that means that capitalism is working, and so the system is working. But I think for a business person, it must be scary to be sitting on piles and piles of cash, but being totally being unable to be able to become the market leader of the next big industry. So that's it for now, and then I will move over to heart and soul. So what does it mean for Christians to be the salt of the world? What does it mean for Christians to be the salt of the world? I think it just means that Christians need to make an impact. They need to be impactful wherever they are. I think they say that you cannot light a candle and put it under the table. Christians need to be that city on the hill that shines, that cannot be hidden. Or they need to be that city on the hill that shines and cannot be hidden. And I think that really this is just about being impactful, and I think Christians have to be impactful, and that is how to generate. That is how really to generate a lot of good deeds in the world. I think the world suffers because Christians are so afraid. The world suffers because Christians are so afraid, and so I think they need to be able to. Christians need to be able to be top-notch in their game, to be top-notch, to really be impactful in this world. So that's it for now. I have looked at in Africa perspectives a recent opposition win by the opposition candidate Joseph Boakai beating an incumbent president, a rarity in Africa, beating the incumbent president George Weah. Then in the Making America, I have looked at what Donald Trump needs to do differently in order to win again, and then in ideas, I have looked at whether a company can have the resources of a multinational but still have the speed and agility of a startup, and finally, in Heart and Soul, I've looked at how can Christians continue to be the salt of the world, how can they make impact in the world. So this has been Mabinda TV. This is home of Compassionate Conservatism, in which I advocate for a fine balance and sweet spot between individual creative genius excellence as supported by capitalism and society excellence as supported by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human first. That is capitalism with a human first.